Tristan Caldwell stared at the departure board in disbelief as the words glared back at him in bold red letters. Final call flight 527 to San Francisco closed. Unbelievable, he muttered, running a hand through his dark hair, the tailored sleeve of his suit jacket pulling tight over his wrist. I was here 10 minutes ago. The gate agent didn't flinch. I'm sorry, sir, the door is closed. Next flight's in 4 hours. 4 hours. That wasn't an option. He had a board meeting in San Francisco at 6 p.m. And missing it wasn't something a CEO of a billion-dollar tech company like him could afford. But the private jet was in for maintenance, of course it was, and now he was stuck, grounded in New York like some average businessman. Frustrated, Tristan turned on his heel and made for the exit. If he could catch a ride to the other airport across town, maybe he could catch a different airline. He pushed through the crowd outside baggage claim, raising his hand for a cab. A yellow taxi skidded to a halt at the curb, and just as he reached for the door, a woman's voice stopped him. Hey, sorry, I was flagging that one. Tristan turned. She was soaked from the sudden downpour, hair clinging to her jaw, a worn leather messenger bag flung across her body. Her eyes were sharp, narrowed, but undeniably pretty. It's yours, he said, stepping back, but the woman looked past him at the thick line of people waiting for the next cab and sighed. Actually, screw it, want to share? Tristan raised a brow. You don't even know where I'm going. Neither do you, she shot back. I'm headed to Midtown. If we're going opposite ways, you can shove me out halfway. He huffed out a surprised laugh and opened the door. Ladies first. They climbed in, the driver pulling off before he'd even finished closing the door. Where to? The driver asked. JFK, Tristan said at the same time she said, West 42nd. They looked at each other, she shrugged. We'll figure it out. Tristan Caldwell, he said, offering his hand. She took it without hesitation. Brielle Martin, her palm was warm, her grip was firm. So what happened to you? She asked, wringing water from the hem of her coat. You look like a man who just lost a small fortune. I missed a flight, he said tightly. She winced. Ouch, business? Yeah, you, interview, graphic design studio, she said. It's my 3rd this month. So naturally I get caught in a rainstorm and now smell like wet subway. He glanced at her again. She was beautiful, but not in an obvious way. There was a spark in her, a kind of grounded confidence that made her impossible to ignore. Tristan found himself smiling. Not the worst first impression. You don't smell it from there. You'd be surprised. She laughed, and it was the kind of laugh that made the cab feel warmer. They drove in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the windows fogging up slightly as the rain hammered the roof. So, she said, glancing sideways, what do you do that can't wait 4 hours for the next flight? He hesitated. People always acted different when they found out, either overly impressed or suddenly suspicious. But something about Brielle made him want to answer honestly. I run a company. She raised a brow. He added, tech development, we're working on a new AI platform for commercial architecture. Sounds fancy. It's definitely a headache, she smiled. You don't seem like a CEO. Good. That's the goal. They hit traffic just outside the Midtown tunnel, the cab jerking to a halt. Brielle groaned. This'll take forever. Tristan checked his watch. I'm not gonna make it, she bit her lip. You nervous about missing the meeting? He didn't answer right away. I'm tired of it, he admitted. The endless flights, phone calls, presentations, it's always about the next deal, the next launch. Sometimes I forget what it's like to just talk to someone who doesn't want anything from me. Brielle looked at him, her expression softening. Sounds lonely. He didn't respond, but he didn't need to. Outside, the rain softened into a drizzle. The cab finally pulled up outside her building, a narrow walk-up with ivy on the bricks. Well, she said, reaching for the door handle. This is me. Tristan surprised himself by saying, wait. She paused. He reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a sleek black card. Call this number. My assistant can schedule a meeting if the studio doesn't hire you. Maybe we will. Brielle blinked. Seriously, you've got something. I can tell. She looked at the card, then back at him. You didn't even see my portfolio. I don't need to. Brielle opened the door, then turned back. You know, for a guy who missed his flight, you don't seem that unlucky, he smiled. I don't feel it right now. She hesitated just a second longer, then got out and shut the door. Tristan watched her disappear into the building, the rain starting up again. The cab pulled away, and he stared out the window, wondering why the hell his chest felt so damn tight. 40 minutes later, he was back at the airport, booked on a new flight. But the whole way to San Francisco, he couldn't stop thinking about the girl in the taxi. The sharp clink of glass against marble echoed through the towering atrium of Caldwell Innovations as Tristan tossed the untouched scotch into his office bar sink. The burn of frustration still lingered in his chest, not from the missed flight or the boardroom politics that followed, but from something much harder to define. Someone. He dropped into his leather chair and stared at the cardholder on his desk. His usual precision had been off since New York. His presentation had gone fine. Investors were thrilled. Stock projections were up, but his focus was fractured. He hadn't heard from her, Brielle Martin, graphic designer with rain in her lashes and defiance in her voice. She had taken that card like it meant nothing. No follow-up. No call. No trace. He turned toward the floor-to-ceiling windows and frowned through the glass. The city buzzed beneath him, 1,000 lights blinking like they knew something he didn't. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, you asked me to let you know if someone responded to that design outreach," said his assistant, Michelle, stepping into the room with her tablet. "We received a submission this morning, portfolio attached, no resume, no cover letter." "Just a note that said, thought you didn't need one." Tristan stood so fast the chair rolled into the wall behind him. "Pull it up." Michelle handed him the tablet. A minimalist interface loaded with clean typography, bold color theory, and sharp layouts. Every detail carried a signature confidence unrefined but arresting. "She sent this," Michelle nodded. "No contact number, just an email, but I traced the IP. She's here. Midtown." Tristan handed the tablet back. "Get me an address," Michelle blinked. "You want to go there?" "Yourself." "I'm not delegating this." She hesitated. "Should I arrange a car?" "No, I'll drive." By the time he reached Brielle's building, dusk had settled in. The sidewalk was slick from an earlier drizzle, and the scent of petrichor clung to the air. He parked his Aston Martin discreetly, a car like his didn't belong on this street, and walked up the steps of the old brick building. Buzzers lined the door like worn piano keys. He found her name B. Martin scrawled on a piece of tape and pressed. A pause. Then, "Who is it?" Tristan Caldwell. Another pause, then a long click. He climbed the stairs, boots echoing off the narrow hall. Her door was open a sliver when he reached it. "Didn't think you'd actually come," she said as he stepped inside. "I'm not great at waiting." Brielle leaned against a chipped counter, arms folded. She wore an oversized sweatshirt dusted with paint and charcoal stains. Her hair was piled on top of her head in a messy knot that looked accidental and perfect at once. "You tracked me down," she said. "That's a bit intense. You sent your work. I said I wanted to see it. You said your assistant would schedule something. You never said you'd show up on my doorstep like some corporate Batman." He glanced around. The space was small but alive. Canvases leaned against the walls, a drafting table cluttered with pencils, swatches, and crumpled notes. The air smelled like turpentine and coffee. "You're talented," he said. "You're persistent." He stepped closer. "Your work has edge, voice. It's not safe, that's rare." She watched him. "Why are you really here?" Tristan hesitated. Then, quietly, "Because I haven't stopped thinking about you." Brielle blinked. "I don't do this," he went on. "Unannounced visits, chasing designers, letting anyone throw my rhythm off. But since that cab, you've been off balance," she finished. He nodded once. She exhaled. "I didn't call because I thought it would make me another name in your contacts, another girl who took your card and chased your attention." "I don't give out that card." She studied him, as if trying to see past the tailored coat and the polished shoes. "You're used to getting what you want," she said. "I don't want convenience. I want something real. And if I say I'm not interested in being someone's project, then I'll respect that." Brielle's gaze flicked toward the window. The street lamp outside cast long shadows across the floor. "Let's get one thing straight," she said. "I don't care what kind of car you drive. I don't care how many companies you own. You're not buying me. I'm not here to buy anything." "Good," she said. "Because I won't be impressed by dinners that cost more than my rent." He stepped closer, voice low. "What will impress you?" She tilted her head. "Someone who listens." Tristan nodded slowly. "Then start talking." She hesitated, then moved toward the drafting table. "I've been working on this piece," she said, lifting a canvas. "It's not finished, but it's honest." He looked. The painting was raw, an abstract skyline blurred with streaks of red and gold layered over a silhouette of a woman standing alone. "It's like she's waiting," he said. "She is," Brielle replied, "but not for a man in a suit." He looked at her, really looked. "Then who?" "Someone who sees past the surface." Tristan met her gaze. "I see you." A beat passed between them, thick with something unnamed. She set the canvas down. "I don't do things halfway. If we start something, it's not going to be casual." "Neither do I." Brielle arched a brow. "Is that a promise?" "It's a warning," he said. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Inside, the air was still. Brielle crossed to the door and opened it again. "Then we'll see if you keep it," she said. Tristan stepped out into the night, heart pounding in a way no merger or acquisition had ever managed. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. The door closed softly behind him, but the weight of it lingered. This wasn't just attraction. This was the start of something that could unravel everything he thought he knew. Tristan pressed the elevator button for the top floor of the Caldwell Innovations building, his jaw tight as he adjusted the cuffs of his shirt. The boardroom behind him had been full of congratulatory voices, but his mind was nowhere near quarterly profits or the new licensing deal they'd just landed in Tokyo. It had been 3 weeks since he'd stood in Brielle's apartment, surrounded by canvases and contradictions, and he hadn't seen her in person since. She'd accepted the design contract he offered, but on one condition: total creative control. She refused to come into the office. She worked from her small studio, sending over digital drafts and declining every invitation his assistant forwarded. She was close, but still holding him at a distance. And Tristan couldn't shake the feeling that if he didn't close that space between them soon, he'd lose her before he ever really had her. He stepped into his penthouse suite, high above the city, and loosened the knot of his tie. The space offered views in every direction, skyscrapers stretching into the horizon, a violet dusk settling over the skyline, but none of it grounded him tonight. His phone buzzed. A message from Michelle, designer, sent over the mock-ups. Folder labeled Phase 2. He crossed the room to his laptop and opened the files. The first concept made him pause. The layout was clean, but the imagery was bold, his own face, subtly layered behind architectural lines and binary code. The message was clear. The man was the machine. She was pushing him, challenging him to confront the image the world saw versus who he really was. He closed the laptop and grabbed his keys. The ride across town was short. Brielle's building was quiet, the sidewalk still damp from an earlier rain. He buzzed up, and after a long pause, the door clicked open. She was barefoot when she opened her door, charcoal smudged across her forearm, her hair tied tighter than it had been the last time. She looked at him without surprise. "I figured you'd show up eventually," she said, stepping aside. "I saw what you sent. Too much?" "No," he said, his voice low. "It's exactly what I needed to see." She moved through the space, picking up a mug and rinsing it in the sink. "I didn't do it for you, I did it for the project." "I know." She set it down and turned to face him. "Then what are you doing here?" "I didn't come to talk about the pitch," he said. "I've been trying to give you space, but I'm done pretending this is just about work." Brielle leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. "You don't really know me, Tristan. I know you won't let yourself want anything you can't control." Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes flickered. "You think I don't notice the way you keep me at arm's length," he continued. "You send drafts at 3 in the morning. You refuse meetings, you won't even let me take you to dinner. I don't date clients. I'm not your client. I'm the man who hasn't slept a full night since that cab ride. She blinked hard. That's not fair. I'm not trying to be fair. I'm trying to be honest. She walked past him, grabbing a sketch pad from the table. You want honesty? Fine. I've been broke for most of my adult life. I've chased unpaid invoices while eating instant noodles. I've had men in suits offer me the world just to prove they could take it away again. I'm not them. No, she said, holding his gaze. You're worse, because you actually mean it. He took a step closer. Then stop running from it. I'm not scared of you. You're scared of needing someone. She didn't answer. The silence between them stretched, filled with everything neither of them wanted to admit. Then, quietly, she said, I used to think love was supposed to look a certain way. That it came with flowers and promises and neat little boxes. But with you, it's chaos. Chaos doesn't mean it's wrong. It means I don't know how to survive it. He reached out, gently brushing his fingertips across her wrist where the charcoal had left a faint smear. You're already surviving it. She looked down, watching his hand instead of his face. I don't want to be another woman who follows you into your world and disappears when you get bored. You think I could ever get bored of you, he said. Brielle, I'm not offering you a place in my world. I'm asking to be part of yours. She finally looked up. I can't give you the version of myself you're used to, she said. I won't wear the gowns or smile through some gala like I belong there. Then I'll cancel the gala. You would do that? For you, yes. She shook her head, a disbelieving laugh catching in her throat. You don't make sense. I've spent 10 years making sense. Building an empire out of logic and strategy, but the moment I met you, none of it mattered. Brielle set the sketchpad down, her hands trembling slightly now. I'm not good at this. I don't need you to be good at it, he said. I just need you to try. She hesitated again, but this time it wasn't fear holding her back, it was the weight of what it meant to choose something that hadn't been part of the plan. You'll hate my neighborhood, she said. I'll buy the building. You'll hate my coffee. I'll learn to drink it. And what if I change my mind? Then I'll wait. Brielle stepped toward him, her voice barely above a whisper. You're not supposed to be real. I'm standing right here. She touched his chest just once, like she needed to confirm he was solid. Then she kissed him. It wasn't cautious, it wasn't sweet, it was a collision of fear, of hope, of every unspoken thing they'd tried to deny. When she pulled away, her breath was unsteady. I still don't trust easy. I'm not asking for easy. Then what are you asking for? Everything. Brielle stepped into the penthouse and stopped just past the threshold, her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. The space gleamed with understated luxury glass, steel and soft gray tones, but it wasn't the opulence that made her hesitate. It was the weight of it. The silence. The way it seemed built for someone who spent more time in meetings than with people. Tristan took her coat and hung it with care, then gestured toward the expansive living room. Come in, I promise, no over-the-top gestures tonight. She arched an eyebrow. No string quartet hiding behind the couch, not unless they're invisible. She walked slowly, taking in the view through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the lights of the city stretching endlessly below them. You live up here, but it's like no one's ever touched anything, she said. I mostly sleep here. Everything else happens somewhere else, Tristan replied, stepping behind the open bar. Water or wine? Water. Too early for wine. He poured and handed her a glass. I asked you here because I want to do this right. She took a sip. What does that mean exactly? Not rushing, not hiding behind business or excuses, just you and me. Brielle moved to the couch and sat, crossing one leg over the other. You're not used to slow. No, but I'm learning. She looked at him, the shadows under her eyes softer now. I spoke with your creative director yesterday. She told me you pulled my designs from the pitch deck. I didn't want them diluted by a committee. I'm planning to unveil them when the new launch goes public. Her expression shifted, a flicker of something he hadn't seen before. Not surprised, something closer to disbelief. You're serious. Yes. I didn't think you'd back them, not fully. I trust your vision. She stared at him for a long moment. I've never had someone do that. Tristan sat beside her, not too close but close enough to feel her warmth. "You've always been on your own, since college," she said. "My dad passed when I was still in high school. Mom left when I was 10. After that, it was me and a series of leases I could barely afford." He shifted slightly, his voice softer. "You don't have to do it alone anymore." Brielle set her glass down carefully. "That's not something I let people offer. I'm not offering it lightly." She turned to him, her tone steady. "If I fall into this with you, it's not going to be clean. I'll still need space sometimes. I'll still question everything. I won't ask you to change. I may not always be easy to love. I'm not looking for easy." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged with something deeper: understanding, maybe even surrender. "I wasn't sure about you," she said. "Not just because of who you are, but because I thought someone like you couldn't see someone like me." "I didn't see you at first," he admitted. "I saw a woman trying to beat the rain to a cab. But then you looked at me like I wasn't someone to be impressed by, and I couldn't stop thinking about that." Brielle smiled, small but real. "You know, I never told you what happened at that interview I was heading to." He leaned back. "Tell me now." "They offered me a junior role. Said I had potential, then gave the lead position to a guy with half my portfolio." He frowned. "You didn't take it?" I walked out mid-sentence. Tristan chuckled. "That sounds like you." "I didn't know what I was doing after that. Then you showed up. And suddenly I was designing again, but this time it felt like I was actually being heard." "You were." She looked down at her hands. "I've been afraid that if I let myself want this, it would all fall apart. That you'd wake up one day and realize I don't belong in your world." He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Then I'll build a new world." Her breath caught, but she didn't pull away. He stood, still holding her hand. "Come with me." "Where?" He led her toward the far end of the penthouse, where a set of frosted glass doors opened into a room she hadn't seen before. She stepped inside and froze. The space was light-filled, with wide tables, tall shelves, and a wall of glass that looked out over the city. In the center sat a massive drafting table, covered in clean paper and untouched brushes. "I had it converted," he said. "For you." Her voice was barely audible. "When?" "After the night you showed me your painting." Brielle stepped forward, her fingers brushing the edge of the table. "You did all this because I want you to feel like you belong here, not just in my life but in this space." She turned to him, eyes shining. "This is the first place that's ever felt like mine." He stepped closer. "It is, and it always will be." She didn't hesitate this time. She wrapped her arms around him and held tight, her head resting against his chest, as if letting go of something she'd been carrying for far too long. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." The next morning, she stood barefoot in the studio, sketching with the sunrise pouring in behind her. Tristan watched from the doorway, a mug of coffee in each hand. "You're up early," he said. "I couldn't sleep." "Too many ideas." He handed her one of the mugs. "Good, you've got a launch to prepare for." She looked at him, her expression soft but steady. "We've got a launch to prepare for." He met her gaze with quiet certainty. "Together." The city stirred beneath them, but neither of them noticed. Because up here in a space that finally felt lived in a moment built from everything neither of them had planned, they had found something neither of them had ever expected. And neither one of them was letting go. The courtyard of the Hotel d'Artois in Paris shimmered beneath strings of golden light, the soft rustle of evening air weaving through the ivy-covered archways. A private event unfolded behind tall, wrought iron gates, the kind of affair where names weren't announced, they were assumed. Champagne flutes clinked, violins hummed, and silk gowns swept across antique stone. Brielle stepped onto the terrace, the deep emerald of her gown catching the lamplight. Her heels clicked softly against the cobblestone as she paused at the balustrade, overlooking the Seine. She exhaled slowly, her breath visible in the cool night air. Tristan approached from behind, the quiet confidence in his steps unmistakable. "You disappeared," he said, offering her a glass of champagne. "I needed a second," she replied, glancing sideways. All of this still feels like a dream I might wake up from. He handed her the glass. You're not dreaming, though if you are, I hope I'm the part you want to keep. She smiled, but it was thoughtful, not playful. This trip, the gallery, the people asking to buy my concepts, the attention. I'm not used to it. You don't have to be, I know, but I want to be, not for them. She turned to face him fully, but because this feels right. Being here with you, owning what I create. He reached out, gently brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. You earned every second of this. I didn't do it alone. You didn't have to. Brielle glanced beyond the terrace, the Eiffel Tower flickering in the distance. Do you remember what you said the night I showed you that unfinished painting? I remember every word. I think I finally understand it now. You saw something in me I hadn't even seen in myself. I didn't see it, he said. I felt it. From the moment you told me to get out of your cab, she laughed quietly, then her voice softened. I've been thinking about something dangerous, serious. He tilted his head. Go on. We've done everything backwards. Cab ride first, business second, relationship somewhere in the middle. And now we're standing in Paris, pretending we belong at a gala sponsored by the most exclusive design firm in Europe. We do belong here. I know, she said, stepping closer. But what comes next? Tristan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught. He didn't open it, not yet. I've had this for a while. I kept waiting for the right moment, but you and I don't do moments the conventional way. So I'm just going to say it. She stared at him, stunned into silence. I've spent years building a world that made sense on paper, but the first time I felt anything real was when you looked me in the eye and refused to be impressed. And I knew then whatever I built next, I wanted to build it with you. He opened the box. A ring nestled inside, simple, delicate, and stunning. A single round diamond set on a band of brushed gold, elegant and understated like her. I'm not asking you to change, or to move in tomorrow, or to throw away your independence. I'm asking you to say yes to a future where we keep growing together. Where I push you and you challenge me and we never stop becoming more than we were yesterday. Brielle blinked hard, then looked up at him. You're serious? I've never been more. She didn't hesitate. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. The moment he slipped the ring onto her finger, the city around them seemed to pause, as if the universe itself had been holding its breath. She wrapped her arms around his neck, and he lifted her off her feet, spinning her once before holding her close. As the music from the gala drifted out onto the terrace, she leaned her head against his shoulder. You know this means I'm going to be designing our invitations, right? I was hoping you would. And I'm not wearing white. I'll wear it instead, he said, and she laughed again, the sound carrying into the night like a promise. 3 months later, in a quiet ceremony beneath a canopy of olive trees in southern Italy, they exchanged vows written in their own words, with only 20 close friends and family in attendance. No press, no photographers, just them. Brielle wore a gold silk dress, barefoot in the grass. Tristan wore no tie, his sleeves rolled, his vows delivered with a voice that never once wavered. Afterward, they danced under the stars, the air filled with the scent of lemon blossoms and fresh wine. Brielle's laugh rang out as he dipped her low, and when she looked up at him, eyes shining, he whispered, "We did it." She nodded. "We're just getting started." They spent their honeymoon in a quiet villa outside Florence, no staff, no security. Just lazy mornings, shared sketches, and evenings filled with stories and kisses and dreams being born. When they returned to New York, she moved into the penthouse not because she needed to, but because she wanted to. He converted the second floor into her full-time studio, and she took on only the projects that inspired her. And when her first solo gallery opened in Soho 6 months later, it was Tristan who stood beside her, hands in his pockets, letting her have every ounce of the spotlight. As the crowd buzzed around her, one critic leaned over to him and whispered, "She's going to change the world." Tristan didn't look away from her as he replied, "She already changed mine." At the end of the night, after the last guest had gone and the lights dimmed, Brielle locked the gallery doors and leaned against them, her eyes finding his. Ready to go home, he crossed to her, took her hand, and kissed the inside of her wrist. Anywhere you are is home, and it was, always would be.